Everybody, we're labeling like this unicorn thing. Everybody's been a unicorn over the last few years, but he's more like an alien. No one has ever seen anyone as tall as he is, but as fluid and as graceful he is out on the floor. That's 7'4", or 7'5", or 7'3", whatever the case may be. His ability to put the ball on the floor, shoot step-back jumpers out of the post, step-back threes, catch and shoot threes, block shots. For sure, a generational talent.
The evolution of the game is taking us this far. You know what I'm saying? When we got 7'5" dudes who's able to do everything on the court. The league's really in trouble when he comes in. I want to see how it plays out.
It's incredible, man. I believe in 2045, everybody is going to look like Victor. He has the chance to be one of the best, not in his age or not in Europe, one of the best to ever play this game. We have never seen something like that before. We got to get ready for this kid. He's going to be really good.
Question: if those NBA superstars you just heard from said those exact remarks without mentioning Victor Wembanyama's name, who would you think they were talking about? Perhaps someone who's dominated a certain era, someone who's close to making their way into the GOAT conversation, someone who's arguably the scariest thing since a prime Shaq. Actually, they were talking about this 18-year-old, 7'5" tall demigod from France that's arguably the biggest and greatest NBA prospect in 2 decades, or since the guy who just claimed the crown for all-time points scored in NBA history. And speaking of LeBron, his hype coming into the league was something else, but believe it or not, this freakishly tall kid who was the consensus first overall pick in next year's NBA draft, his hype is, if it isn't already, even exceeding the hype surrounding LeBron in the early 2000s. The entire league is in imminent danger with Wembanyama's inevitable entry into the NBA, and LeBron James referred to him as an alien, and with a 99.99% chance of being selected first overall in the 2023 NBA draft, it's only right that I tell you a few more interesting things about this kid you probably didn't know. Only 14 players in NBA history have stood 7'4" or taller, and only 9 of those 14 have played more than 100 games. Victor Wembanyama stands 7'3" barefoot and at least 7'4" in shoes. That is, assuming he stopped growing. Just look at this guy standing up straight with shoes on. The dude is freakishly long. Only when you look at his highlights, you realize what all the fuss is about. Wembanyama lit up G League Ignite and the likely second pick in the upcoming draft, Scoot Henderson, in his first 2 games on American soil.
Now, with the blow by, Wembanyama!
He averaged better than 36 points, 7 rebounds, and 4.5 blocks per game. But his agility and shot blocking aren't even his strongest suits. Scarily enough, because this man really can shoot. And he can almost touch the rim without jumping because he's 7'4" and has a 9'7" standing reach. Kinda like what we've been saying about Kevin Durant for 16 years. Nobody in the NBA will be able to block his jumper. Victor Wembanyama wears a size 20.5 shoe. And finding shoes that fit him as a teenager was difficult. The only players in NBA history whose shoes would be too big for Victor are Shaquille O'Neal, Bob Lanier, and Taco Fall. But that's not even the most bizarre fact about Victor, because when he enters the NBA, he will be the only player with an 8-foot wingspan, and there have only been 2 players in NBA history with longer arms than Wembanyama, and they were both 7 feet 7 inches tall in shoes. But how did Wemby become so big? Well, it isn't a miracle. It might be because his father is a former track and field athlete who stands at 6 feet tall. Victor's mother is a former basketball player and current youth basketball coach who stands 6 feet 2. She was Victor's first coach, but basketball wasn't Victor's only sport. Wemby grew up playing soccer as a goalkeeper and judo until his growth spurt occurred and basketball took over. When Wemby was only 10 years old, Michael Allard, the coach of the Nanterre basketball club, noticed him on the bench during one of the youth games, but Allard mistook him for some extremely young-looking, clean-shaven assistant coach because of his height. Allard had no idea Wemby was only 10 years old and competing against all the other kids. Then, Victor put on his uniform and began playing. Allard's mouth dropped open and he immediately recruited Wemby for Nanterre's youth team. It didn't take long for Nanterre to realize Wemby was the most talented prospect since LeBron James as he continued to grow and improve his game. Wemby weighs only 210 pounds despite his massive frame, and he'll need to bulk up to be able to extend his physicality in the NBA. Rudy Gobert, who stands 7'1" and has a wingspan of 7'7", was also very skinny when he first got drafted. Despite being smaller than Wemby, Gobert was 25 pounds heavier. Wemby values Gobert's contributions because Rudy was a key component in making Wemby go viral for the first time, because when Wemby was 16, he was filmed playing one-on-one with Gobert. But the crazy part was Wemby casually draining jump shots over the 7-foot-tall Gobert, who was the reigning defensive player of the year at the time. Another French NBA player, Nicolas Batum, first saw Wemby when he was 14, but he was already 6'11". Although young prospects rarely approach NBA stars, Batum was so taken with Wemby's ability and size that he came down to the floor and introduced himself to the 14-year-old. Because his good friend Tony Parker had recently purchased the French club ASCO, Batum immediately called Parker and told him that they needed to sign Wembanyama as soon as possible. They were able to sign Wembanyama, who played for Assault for the 2021 season, averaging 9.4 points, 5.1 rebounds, and 1.8 blocks in 18.5 minutes off the bench in 16 French League games, and 6.5 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 1.9 blocks in 13 EuroLeague games. Even though he's only 18 years old, Wemby has already broken some records that will be extremely difficult to break. He led France to a silver medal in the 2021 Under-19 FIBA World Cup, averaging 14.7 points, 0.4 rebounds, and 5.7 blocks per game. Nobody has ever averaged as many block shots per game in a single FIBA basketball tournament in history.
Sit on the floor, and Wembanyama gets another block on him.
But Victor is much more than just a fantastic basketball player. He adores Star Wars, and he's an avid reader, his favorite genre being fantasy novels. When Wemby realized he had the talent to be drafted into the NBA, he knew he needed to improve his English skills. He learned English by watching Instagram videos and American TV shows, and is now completely fluent. So you know the NBA is in trouble when one of the 15 tallest people in NBA history loves basketball so much that not playing becomes a punishment. Wembanyama is as good as advertised, and if he can stay healthy, he has the potential to become one of the best players in the NBA really, really soon.
Setting up, Konate missing the three, and that will be kept in play by Wembanyama. Another highlight reel kind of play for number one.
Man, I'm excited as I've ever been to see this kid from France come into the NBA and potentially change the game forever because, well, let's face it, he has the capabilities to do something, and for us to see something on our TV screen we've never seen before, and probably something we might not see again. As far as the odds go, freakishly tall guys have had a short shelf life in the NBA, and even if they were stars at some point, injuries never let them see the light of day. Yao Ming is the only guy that comes to mind that actually had a successful NBA career, but even he massively underachieved, and it was because of injuries. So, only time will tell, folks.